Okay, hi ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today. You can still see my screen, right? Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay, very good. Thank you. So welcome to this 10th episode of my Career by Design series. Thank you so much for joining. For those of you who are joining me regularly, this is our 10th session in the 13 episode series. It's all under the banner of Career by Design, which I'm very passionate about. And today we are covering the goal setting strategies for women who lead, and for all women, indeed. I would like to explain today to you why am I talking about goal setting for women, goal setting and achieving goals for women in particular, and why it would be different for women and men, and would it be different at all? So I really would like to focus on why I'm differentiating it, and also on the why it's more difficult for women, and also what are the strategies for women to overcome the barriers, to set their goals effectively and to achieve them. Because we have always someone new at those sessions, I just want to give you a very quick overview of my background, because this explains why I'm talking. I spent more than 25 years in the corporate world, in the financial services industry. My journey was from the very junior positions to the executive positions. So I do know the corporate world, and I do know what kind of challenges women are experiencing during their journey. This is what I have done, and this is where I have been. My passion now is to help women, high achievers, the younger versions of myself, everybody, to take control of their career journey and to achieve their definition of success on their terms. I have pivoted to coaching a couple of years ago. Now I'm doing it full time. I'm an executive coach and a business transformation expert. And as mentioned, my passion is helping women high achievers. And this is why I'm addressing my message to women specifically. Now, Career by Design, what is it? So that's a project that I'm running, 13 episodes in a weekly intervals. I would say hosted weekly on LinkedIn, always on Wednesday, always 12 o'clock, noon, UK, 1 p.m. Central European time. And it's specifically for high achieving women in the corporate world to help them take control of their career. This is all about this career by design concept, which is in opposite to career by default. If we don't manage our own career, it will happen anyway, and or it will be managed by someone else. So that's the goal. The goal here is to help you achieve your long-term success and fulfillment, as mentioned, on your own terms. If you are interested in your career management, and I know you are because you're here, and if you like the topics that I'm covering, and if you have any other topics that you would like to be covered, please join my community on LinkedIn. Now, Career by Design, that's the last slide that I will be talking about before I start with our today's topic. This is a concept of proactive approach where you can take charge of your professional journey and design a fulfilling career that aligns with your passion, skills, and values. As mentioned before, if we don't manage our career, someone else will, or it will just happen by default. Now, goal setting strategies for women who lead, crafting your powerhouse career. I chose this topic for a couple of reasons. One is that goal setting is not that obvious. It seems to be a simple topic, but there are a lot of challenges that we still encounter on our way while setting our goals. And setting is one thing, and then achieving our goals. So I thought this would be an interesting thing to talk about and to hear your perspective as well. And of course, we are talking about goals in the corporate setting, but it's much more than that. It's all about goal setting for our own life, which of course there is career, there is other things as well. And this is why it's so, I think, so important to discuss this topic when we talk about the management, our career, our own career management, and the taking control of our career. Please do interrupt me if you have a question. Please do interrupt me if you have a comment. Please put in the chat comments, questions, or anything you want to add. I really would like it to be an interactive session, and I would love to hear your perspective. Yeah, so I started off saying that I do believe setting and achieving goals for women in particular is a little bit different and a little bit harder than for men, and hence this perspective here. And why does it matter for women leaders and women in the corporate world and women in general? Goal setting, of course, provides us with clarity and direction. Once we know what our goals are in life, in our personal life, in our career, it's easier to navigate both. And especially for your career path, once you know where you're going, it's much easier to get there. And once you know where you're going, you can set up clear goals for yourself, and then one by one, go towards your destination. Here, I want to say what I always been mentioning. It doesn't mean that we need to know our destination today, and we need to know what we will be, say, doing in 20 years' time, and what our ultimate goal is. It's important to have a goal now. You can always course correct, and you will be course correcting your goals, your direction, but the general direction should always be the one that you are aiming at, and the one that you choose for yourself. Because if you have no end game goal, then you just don't know where you're heading. So although not set in stone, it's important to have a direction both for your career and your own life. Motivation and focus, it's important. Once we know what we want to achieve, we are more motivated and we know what to focus on. And we all know that there is so many things, fighting for our attention every day. Once we have clear goals, it's much easier to organize our own life towards those goals. And dreams, yeah, because our goals could be or should be our dreams. Accomplishment and celebration. I will be talking about it later a little bit more as well, because especially we women forget about celebration and forget about acknowledging our successes. We spoke about it during those sessions a lot, how we just tend to keep going, and we often don't have time or don't feel it's important to slow down, stop, and say to yourself, well done. That's really, really, really important. Celebrating progress and acknowledging success. Control, having goals, a direction, gives us a better control of our life and our career trajectory. And again, I want to say that if we don't control our career trajectory, someone else does, either our boss or just life or anything, it just goes with the flow, and this is not what we want. Powerhouse leadership, it fuels our ambitions and the journey to leadership, knowing where we are going, knowing that we have a control over it, and knowing what we want to achieve. Is there any comment or question at this point in time? No. Okay, let me keep going. At the very beginning, I mentioned the barriers, specific barriers that women are facing setting and achieving their goals. And for those of you who have attended my previous sessions, you would know that I've been talking about barriers a lot, especially specifically for women, and because I think it's important. Once we know what the barriers are, it's much easier to overcome them. And again, we have been talking here about the two categories of barriers that women are facing: personal and systemic, which don't help in our careers and don't help in achieving our goals. Self-sabotaging, we spoke about it as well. I will be talking about it more later. This can hinder our advancement, absolutely. And the behaviors and habits that were helpful in the past, they sometimes can become roadblocks going forward. This is the concept of what got you here will not get you there. So there is a lot of things, but I think it's important to remember about the personal and systemic. Personal will be self-sabotaging, and the behaviors and habits that were helpful in the past and not necessarily going forward. But there are, of course, the systemic ones which go on top of that. Recognition is the first step towards overcoming all those barriers. Once we know they exist and once we know what they are, it's much easier to go about them. Systemic barriers. Again, some of you will recognize those concepts, but I do want to cover them very briefly now. The systemic barriers are everything that women are facing in the, I wanted to say corporate world, but in their professional career. Let's put it like that. Unequal pay and promotion opportunities, the persistent gender bias, social expectations in terms of the roles that women play in the society, and the lack of support systems in many countries. So that's the systemic barriers, and by no means this is an exhaustive list. It's just a couple of categories. And remember, I said there were systemic and personal barriers. Personal barriers, this is the matrix that most of you will remember and recognize from my previous webinars. This is a quotation from a really good book of How Women Rise of Sally Helgesen and Marshall Goldsmith. These are the concepts that keep women stuck often in their career and which hinder their career advancement. The reason why I'm talking about them again and again is because in the context of goal setting and goal achievement, they are very important. We mentioned already reluctance to claim achievement, which is we don't celebrate successes because we don't even claim them. We say, okay, yeah, this was just luck, or this just happened. This was easy, okay? And then if we don't claim our achievements, no one else will. No one else will. So it will not be easy to get promoted if no one recognizes your achievements. If you yourself lay them down, and then no matter what goals you set for yourself, if no one else believes that you're good enough and that you have and nobody else knows or recognizes your achievements, the goals will not necessarily be easy to achieve in the corporate or professional setup. Expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward you, again, very much similar to reluctance to claim achievements. Those two definitely go together. Overvaluing expertise. And the reason why I talk about it in the context of goal settings is because we will talk about personal and professional and personal goals, and the learning goals which go underneath. Women tend to study a lot, learn a lot, and go for yet another certification and another certification, hoping and thinking that once they have all those credentials, they will be more promotable and they will be more visible. And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing to learn, to study, and to get certification. It's very important. It's important for our own confidence, and it's important for our own employability. However, there is a point in time where we need to understand that that's enough, and what matters, the higher up we go in the organization, what matters most is the organizational dynamic, the organizational politics, networking, and so on. So this is really, really important. Building rather than leveraging relationship, we spoke about as well. Failing to enlist allies from day one and putting your job before your career. These are all things that, while setting up and achieving goals, will not be very, very helpful. I don't want to dwell on all of them too long today because there is more to cover. But if you would like to discuss any of those concepts in details, please let me know. Perfection trap for goal achievement. This is I would say an enemy number one, and many times I said that I'm a victim of this as well. Even preparing for those sessions and those webinars, it's not helpful. I constantly need to remind myself that done is better than perfect, and the perfect is not possible anyway. Minimizing our successes, ruminating, oh, this has happened, it's not good. Ruminating doesn't help us going forward. Our thinking in forward thinking, because we just, dwell on our past, I don't want to say failures, but yeah, perhaps mistakes or whatever we believe are or think are mistakes or failures. The disease to please, this concept too much, and letting your radar distract you. Again, mentioning all of those because they will not help us in defining our vision, because we will not be brave enough to set our vision in a brave way. It won't help us in our vision. It won't help us in setting up our goals because we will not believe they are possible. And then even if we set them up, it will not be easy to achieve them because all of those barriers will be standing on our way. So that's why I wanted you to look at them again and think about them also in the context of the systemic ones, because once you add them together, it really makes it harder for women to achieve what they really want. Every time I talk about this matrix, I encourage you to think about yourself, because we all have them. Like I suppose through all my career, I had them all and more. But remember, we said recognition is the first step to overcoming them. Once we know what kind of personal barriers we have, then it's easier to work on them. Now, systemic barriers are different. It doesn't mean that we cannot work on them, but it requires a collective effort. Whereas here, and I'm not saying you should be doing it on your own. There will be different techniques once you recognize them, to manage them, working with your mentors, with your coaches, working with your peers and accountability buddies, whatever works for you. But it's very, very important, because whatever goals you will be setting for yourself, it will not be easy to achieve them if you are held back by one or many of those personal barriers. On top of that, I wanted to mention the fear of failure, lack of support. Oftentimes we don't have support, or we don't ask for support because we don't think it's, even if we think it's needed, we are afraid to ask for support because this could be a sign of weakness or failure. But that's really, really important to recognize that we need support in achieving our goals and ask for it. Perfectionism, we will be talking about all the time because it's very, very important, dwelling on things and trying to get things to the perfect stage means that we are never ready to get to the next stage or to the next step, and we are never ready to move on. Time constraints, this is normal. All of us have time constraints, but this is why prioritization of your goals, both personal and professional, is so very important, because there will always be time constraints, but we all have the same amount of time. And that's really, really important, no matter who we are. So it's important to make sure that we use the time the way that works best for ourselves. Any comments or questions, ladies, at this point in time? Yeah. Abir says she loves that part regarding celebration. Absolutely, Abir, and we will be talking about it later on a little bit more. This is really a good one, and this is something I have never been good at, I must say. But now I'm just I remember about it, and I remember about making sure that I at least say to myself, well done. Claiming achievements versus over-claiming achievements, Shanaz is asking about. Let's hold this thought, Shanaz, because it's a very, very important talking point. And let's cover it towards the end. And thank you so much for raising. Thank you for your comments. It's an interesting question, Shanaz, because that's exactly, I would say this is our weaning type of challenge, at least in our own heads. How do I claim achievements without over-claiming or boasting or being seen as arrogant? Yeah, that's a very interesting angle. Thank you for sharing. I will come back to that. And ladies, if you have any comments to the questions or comments in the chat, please share, because that's what's really, really interesting. Everybody else's perspective. I don't have all the answers, but collectively we know much more. This is a busy slide, and I apologize for that. But I wanted to bring some of the most effective goal setting strategies in one place. I will talk about all of them in more details, but I thought it would be good to have this kind of an overview in one place. So we spoke about the barriers. We spoke about why it's necessarily not the same for women and men in terms of setting and achieving goals. We broke down the barriers into personal and systemic, and we spoke about the personal ones and the recognition a little bit more. Now, so what do we do about it? What are some strategies that we can effectively use to our goal setting and ultimately goal achieving our goals and the achievement, because that's what matters. There's no point in setting goals and then forgetting about them, which oftentimes happens to be in the past and still happens sometimes. Vision mapping. Again, my passion, having a vision, having purpose, and having your why is very, very important. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I going where I'm going? And then again, why am I doing what I'm doing? Where do I want to go? Why do I want to go there? Once we have this big vision and do have big visions and big goals, it will be easier to work backwards from it and translate this big vision into milestones and smaller goals, and then even smaller steps. Again, having vision is not enough, because you will never be able to just get from you are here to your vision without knowing how to get there. And the how is your goals and the smaller steps. Then short-term and long-term goals, I mentioned, aligning short-term goals with long-term aspirations. It's all about tactical and strategic. Oftentimes in our life, we don't have time to, or at least we think we don't have time to stop and think about the bigger picture, because we are so busy, doing whatever needs to be done every day. And it's especially for women who oftentimes attend to everybody else but themselves. They think about themselves last. So during our busy day, oftentimes we don't have time to sit down and think about, what about my goals? What have I done for myself today? Because we cater to everybody, you know, our children, our parents, our colleagues and friends, and the job, of course. But then, how about us? And you may remember from one of the previous slides, I was talking about the personal barriers, putting your job before your career. This is one of our, you know, our mistakes, and I was guilty of this many years. When I think I was being loyal is very important for me. So it was, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be loyal to our company, but we should be looking at our job as a part of a bigger puzzle in our career. Instead of, okay, this is what I should be doing now because it's good for the company, because it's good for the strategy of the company. And that's very important. But how does that align with your own goals, with your vision? Prioritization techniques, the Eisenhower matrix. It sounds very complex and very sophisticated, but it's all about, you know, what's urgent, what's not, and what's important. I will show you an example of Eisenhower matrix a little bit later. And in the meantime, I see that there is a couple of things. Yeah. Eva says she needs to switch off now. Thank you, Eva, so much for joining us. And Shanaz is, saying that she has some issues with her microphone, but she's putting here, making the job part of our career is a good point. Thank you, Shanaz. I think it is important because very often we just focus on the job to be done here and now, but how does it fit into our overall career? Do we have an exit strategy? Do we know how to go to the next step? Balancing professional and personal goals is important, and accountability systems, and having accountability partners and leveraging mentors and sponsors, and overcoming our own barriers, which is identifying the limiting beliefs and gender-specific challenges. We spoke about it before. Now, so these are some strategies. I broke them down into more details for you, so you can revisit it later if you want. Vision mapping. Those of you who attended one of my webinars before may recognize this slide because there are many techniques of defining or designing our vision, and the vision board is one of them. You know, going through any material that you want. It could be magazines, it could be photos, it could be anything that inspires you, and anything that resonates with you, anything that resonates with your interests and your desires and ambitions, and then put it on your board and create your own picture of what you would like your life, ideal life, to look like. It's one of the techniques, but it's I found it very useful. Yeah. Prioritization techniques, the Eisenhower matrix I mentioned, and I also mentioned professional and personal goals. And let's have a look at this Eisenhower decision matrix for a second. I'm sure we all know it, but it's important to have a look at it every now and then. And knowing it is one thing, but also how to use it effectively is another. It's important once we are setting our own goals, defining the vision and setting the goals, to know which of the tasks are important or urgent. And it's both for our long-term goals and also for the tasks that we are setting up to achieve our goals. And indeed, everything that we are doing in the meantime, which may either help us to achieve our goals or not necessarily so, because they will keep us very busy on other things, working on other things. So have a look at that and think about it. What in your what's on your to-do list, on your plate now is urgent versus important. Like everything is important, but not everything is urgent. If it's not important, who you can delegate it to, or when can you do it? Maybe you can do it later, like the not urgent stuff, right? Or indeed eliminate. Don't do it at all. There is one of the prioritization techniques where you just go into your to-do list and delete things which are no longer important, but be ruthless. Look at things which you don't necessarily need to do. And it's not intuitive. We tend to do the opposite. We add and add and add to our to-do list. But the point is to look at it and see what we really have to do or want to do and what we don't. Now, accountability systems. I'm talking about all the time about your accountability partners. Do find accountability partners. It can be your peer. It can be someone you admire and trust who holds you accountable on your goals. Do leverage mentors and sponsors. Again, every session we talk about mentors and sponsors. They will help you achieve your goals in two ways, I think. One is they also can be your accountability partners. Once you tell them what your goals are, you will be more motivated to go for those goals because you share them already with someone. That's one thing. And another thing, those mentors and sponsors can help you get you there. If they don't know, they won't. Or they will helping you, but in a different direction. Overcoming barriers, know your limiting beliefs, we mentioned, and gender-specific challenges. Now, this is, I would say, a thing that all of us know, but it's important to mention it again. The SMART goal framework. Everybody knows it, but I suppose the big thing is that all of us know it. Do we all do it? Do we consciously do it every time we have a goal? Do we have specific goals? Or what exactly do we want to achieve? Remember, going back to your vision, measurable. How will you know that you're on track? What is the measurement? And those of you who are in the corporate world and who have the performance management system built in, you would recognize, because it's oftentimes setting your objectives and then the measurement. It's very, very important in all aspects of your life, and especially in the corporate world, because it's okay to have a very ambitious goal. But the question is, do we all understand how it will be measured? Do you understand it exactly the same way as your line manager? It has to be very specific. It has to be very tangible, and it has to be measurable. It has to be achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Time-bound I like, because we can have all kinds of goals that we want, but if they are not time-bound, if we don't know when we want to achieve them, or if we constantly pushing them out, further out, then it's not helping. And again, I think it's important to look at them, and sometimes it's necessary and needed and wise to push them further out, but make sure that you do it consciously and that you know that this is exactly what you need to do. So again, the SMART goal framework is something everybody knows and everybody talks about. The question is, how would you apply it to yourself, and which of those criteria are most relevant to you? Like, is it specific? You know how to make them specific? Is it about the measurement? Is it achievable? Achievable, I have always had a problem with, because I do believe in aiming higher and higher. And when we say achievable, yes, achievable is very important. It's important in our work and corporate setting, but it's also important to not limit ourselves on what is achievable. Relevant, of course, it has to be relevant to our vision and overall goal, and time-bound is my favorite one, Because, for example, I often come back to this comment that someone said we tend to overestimate what we can do in 12 months, but we underestimate what we can do in 10 years. And I think this is, for me, it was a big aha moment, because I understood that this was one of the barriers for me to achieve what I really want, because I was setting up too many goals for now, immediately, not being patient and wanting everything in this quarter and in this month, in this week. And only when I realized that, yeah, it doesn't have to be that way, it can be spread out, I think then it's much easier and it's more realistic as well. Yeah, measurable and achievable are challenging. Shanaz, do you want to elaborate on this, that it's a challenge?
Yeah, thank you, Isabella. I think that many times when we are setting our goals, these are like mostly qualitative, goals, and then how to convert it into, measurable goals, I think needs a bit of practicing, it's like, you need to also have some creative thinking. For example, of course, you want to perform well. And if it is not a revenue generating role, if it is like, customer satisfaction or customer service, it's difficult to, have a quantifiable aspect to it. But then, if you get help, if you ask for help, there are ways that you can actually put quantifiable factors attached to these kind of goals as well.
Yeah, and it's an excellent point. I wonder if anybody wants to share any techniques or any ways to put some measures on, as Shanaz said, not tangible, intangible goals. Does anybody have any idea or anything that you used in the past? If you want to share, please put it in the chat or shout. I want to share one which I have been using often, and this is, say, in customer service, especially role, it's important to ask for feedback. And oftentimes this could be framed as, I don't know, seek feedback from your key stakeholders on your performance. And this means going to them and asking them, how was your service, and are they happy? If they are unhappy, why they are unhappy? And a lot of companies do it also in kind of surveys as well. I think this is quite powerful, because once I know, then my stakeholders will be asked later on my performance. I should make sure they will be happy anyway, but once I know they will be asked, and asked sometimes even for a written feedback, it's then important. That's, of course, it impacts my performance. Would you agree, Shanaz?
Yes, I definitely.
Yeah, so with intangible, I think these are these are techniques that we can use. Asking people, asking for feedback, looking for the for the result, if you like, of our intervention. But that's a really good point, that intangible are much harder. It's much easier to put some, monetary goals, for example, measurement, for example. But I do think we should strive to put some measurement to the intangible ones as well, because it's very, very important.
Right. And what you said about asking for feedback is, I think, a very good point. I think not only asking, but also wanting to accept the feedback, because I think we will all relate that when we may know within ourselves that we worked very hard, but it may not, I mean, others may not have the impression. And I feel that instead of judging them or feeling that they are not being fair, we can also have an open mind and think that maybe we have to help them see how we worked hard.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's an important one. Feedback and accepting feedback. I think it's a two-way street, because like in corporate setting, I think managers should be very sensitive to how to give feedback, and they should be taught to know how to give feedback, because feedback should not be personal. Now it's all about being personal, but it's not about the person, it's about this person's performance, right? So it's just to try to separate, because then you will be able to look at it as the outcome of your work rather than a reflection on you as a person, and then it's easier to accept such feedback. That's one thing. And another thing is to always to ask in any role, what are the success criteria? What a good looks like for me? And then in your feedback, you should also know why, if it's not such a good feedback, why it doesn't look good, you know? And if it doesn't, then again, there is room for improvement always. It's important not to treat it personally, but again, that's what I started with. It's important to be able to give feedback as a line manager, as a colleague, as a friend, in the way that still, you know, that it respects the other person and it's not then seen as a personal one. We have something, yeah. Wanting to accept feedback, says Ruth, is important. Yeah, absolutely. We put in the comment that if you are able to answer a question of how would you know that you achieved the goal, it will lead you to how to measure the achievements. For example, B says, I want to improve the morale of my team. Could use a scale. This is the starting point, and set the time frame when you're going to measure it again. V, do you want to elaborate a little bit? Or maybe she cannot. But I think this is a very, very this is a really, really interesting point. And Kinga raised a hand. Kinga, do you want to say something?
Yes, I want to say something. Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Yes, regarding the feedback and how we accept the feedback, it's also one thing that you already touched upon before, Isabella. It's the perceptions, actually. So we have to be very careful between, you know, the difference between, you know, the reality of what we think we do, the impact that we think we have, and the perception of people. And sometimes we might have the impression that we work so hard, we've given everything that we could, and eventually it's not perceived the way we want it to be perceived. So this is what I think it's been a really good direction in my life, just making sure that sometimes I might work a little bit less and just look at the feedback and just adapt my behavior so the perceptions are better sometimes. So really think always about the impact I think I'm making and the perceptions from people. And my boss was always telling me, he was a strategist, and he was saying, Kinga, my perceptions are your reality. It's very harsh, but it just teaches you a lot. And I will stop here just for, you know, food for thought.
Thank you so much, Kinga, for sharing. My old boss, now he wasn't old, but in my previous life used to say it as well. It's apparently some saying of one of the, you know, former US presidents. Perception is reality. Whoever said it, it's absolutely true. And Kinga is absolutely right. Whatever we think we are achieving, or whatever we think we are performing or delivering, it's not necessarily what others I want be perceived in the same way. So that's always important. And I suppose, Kinga, that's what you're saying. Always ask for feedback, and always ask what good looks like, and is it what is expected. It's also important not to ask this question at the very end when you already delivered, right? Because it may be too late. Thank you. Very, very interesting. Smart goal framework. So let's move on. Yeah, I wanted to add this plus factor to the smart goal setting framework, because smart is really, really good, but make sure that your goals are stretching. And you know, we spoke about it a little bit when we mentioned that the goals should be achievable, but make sure that they are stretching, that you go out a little bit of your comfort zone, because in your comfort zone you don't grow. They should be inspiring both for you, because it will motivate you, and for others. Now, do think about yourself first and then about others, and of course aligned with your core values. And then if you want to remember only one thing from this, we spoke so much about values and in our goals being inspired, but do think about stretching, how you can stretch your goals so that they are achievable still, but a little bit uncomfortable. Once you know that feeling a little bit uncomfortable, you know that you are growing. Yeah, and this I will go through very quickly, because we spoke about the importance of goal setting, about the barriers, both personal and professional. We spoke about strategies, some strategies and strategies to set the goals, to achieve them, and to prioritize, and how those strategies can translate into action plan. This is what I would like to briefly cover now. Yeah, we spoke about those big, ambitious goals. Break them down into smaller, manageable steps, because big goals can be daunting and can be very intimidating. Once we have this very, very big goal, we sometimes don't know how to go about it. And then guess what? We don't do it at all. Identify your key resources and skills needed to achieve each step. It's very, very important, because everything is achievable and manageable once you know what you need, what kind of help you need as well. Because here we are talking about both your skills, but also resources being like your mentors, your accountability partners. But again, it may be another course or something that you need to learn. Develop a timeline. Yeah, we know it's time bound, right? With clear milestones for progress tracking, because we need to track it. Yeah. Schedule dedicated time for action in your calendar. Because it's one thing to have a to-do list, and another thing to translate it into your diary so that you know when you are doing what. Now, again, it doesn't mean that you have to stick to it like forever, but at least you will have it on your calendar and you will know this is exactly what I wanted to do now, today, what I'm doing tomorrow, and make sure that those are the milestones and the tasks that are bringing you closer to your goals. Yeah, accountability measures. I can't stress this one enough. This one is really, really important. Yeah. There's a concept, says Shanaz, about not caring about what others think about you, but can we really apply to our work? That's a really apply to our workplace. Shanaz, that's a really good point, because it leads me, it's a good segue to something I want to talk about now. And thank you so much for raising. So these are some, yeah. I don't want to go through those because we don't have much time, but this is a summary of what we spoke about before, and Ruth was saying that it's so important about celebrating success. Yes, regularly review them, both your goals and progress, celebrate your milestones, even small ones. Adapt your goals based on your new learnings and opportunities, and seek additional support. Of course, reward yourself for achieving milestones. Do. What else matters? And this is coming back to Shanaz's point. What else matters? Empowerment through focus. What you can control. There are things that we can control, and there are things that are out of our control. We need to focus on things that we can control. And this is, Shanaz, exactly what you were asking. Like, we shouldn't be worrying about what others think about us and to what point. We need to focus on our own behaviors and habits, because we cannot control external factors, but we can control our own actions and reactions. Ergo, it means I cannot control what other people do, but I can control what I can do about it. So again, focus on what you can control, and this is Shanaz, the concept about perhaps this disease to please. We always want everybody to like us and be good, or thinking about really well and so on. You can't control it, and there is no point to even trying, because there will always be someone who doesn't buy into what you are saying and what you are doing. There will always be people who don't like what I'm doing now, who don't like the way or the concept or me. Should I worry about it? Yes, perhaps, because I need to get feedback and understand why this happens, but there will be people who are not necessarily interested and so on. Should I worry about it? No. And Shanaz, if this is something else that you meant, please let me know. What we can control, to focus on what we can control, we need to embrace a proactive approach and don't dwell on obstacles, focusing on what we can do moving forward, because there will always be obstacles in our goals achievement, right? Growth mindset helps. Believing in our ability to learn and grow, and viewing challenges as opportunities, which is perfectly fine, but very, very difficult, right? It's very, very difficult to look at challenges as your opportunities. I know it from experience. Very, very hard, but worth doing. Yes. Celebrate, 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 and stay motivated. Now, consider journaling or coaching to gain clarity. How about you, ladies? It's the top of the hour. I want to be respectful to your time. That's the end of what I wanted to tell you about my perspective on goal setting and goal achievement for women. I do encourage you to think about you. Some of those challenges, techniques, strategies will be relevant for you. Some will not. With some you will be agreeing, with some you will not be agreeing, but that's okay and that's fine. It's important to tailor make it to what works for you, but do remember to start with a big vision, have your goals, and stay on track. Now, I want to open the floor for questions. Shanaz, do you want to come on stage, because you said here also about point on perception, which is absolutely excellent, and point about claiming achievements and over claiming achievements. Shanaz, I would like you, if you don't mind, to elaborate on this over claiming achievements a little bit. Can you give us an example? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I can give an example. So I feel that there are there are cases where over claiming tends to be a result of being threatened by other successes. So it's not basically being rude or not caring for others, but I think that the fear of missing out, if there are certain individuals, they see others' successes are being celebrated, they straight away, and it's, I think, in human nature to compare yourself with everything that's happening around you, and whenever others are being celebrated, they straight away try to compare their situation instead of just being happy for that person. So I feel that it's more due to the threatened, they are threatened by others' success, that they overclaim their achievements.
And you mean overclaim achievements being like going and saying this is what overclaiming
Yes.
achievements, or also like taking somebody else's or claiming somebody else's achievements as yours?
Not claiming someone else's, but repeatedly talking about their successes. So maybe that person already, they were applauded or they were recognized for something they did, but then they keep on mentioning that in different platform over and over again when someone else is being just to steal their thunder, and it's probably not doing it with a vicious intention, but it's because, you know, they get threatened.
Yeah, and I know what you mean. That's a really, really good point. And I think Ruth is adding to it here. If you want to come off mute, Ruth, please do. But that's a really important point. It not being able to move on and being, as you said, threatened by someone else, and also mentioning it all the time. No one likes people who are stealing the light, you know, and always being the ones who want the light to be shining on themselves. The question is why the person is doing this. Kinga wants to explain. Kinga.
Yes, I have some thoughts here, definitely. So listen, if the person is just exaggerating the way they are claiming the achievements, and so what for you, really? You really don't care. There is you might do the same, according to me. Why not doing and claiming your achievements? And I think it just forces to kind of emulation, a kind of development of a kind of nice competition, or at least for you, it will be a kind of competition to the benefit of the firm. So I would just much more take it positively. If a person is doing it and you see that there are results and the person gets promoted or have like advantages, I would say just try to take the example in a positive way, and don't be frustrated. Just forget about it, but do it yourself. So this is how I would see this, and definitely potentially the person feels threatened. Yes, but you don't really care. This is my opinion, but I just very it depends really on how people react and how they feel about it.
Yeah, if I can just add, Kinga, that's really a very inspiring comment. I was actually more concerned about that person's well-being, because, you know, if that person is reporting to you, for example, you're the manager, and if that person is doing this out of a threat, perhaps you would like to empower that person by, you know, saying that, you know, you are, you know, I mean, just empowering them in a way, or assuring them that, you know, they are highlighted also.
Oh, this is another scenario, definitely, Shanaz. It's totally different scenario, and I agree with you. So I would agree with you that just, yes, you have to make the person more confident. There is something behind it. If you have identified something, you feel something, because you have this intuition, yes, you should do something about it, but not forgetting the other team members, according to me. But it's another scenario, actually. I was thinking that you were talking about yourself, you know.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, thank you. No.
Thank you, ladies. And Ruth is raising a really interesting point, because here in the chat, Ruth is saying, as women, we have to acknowledge our own job well done, but need to stay humble. It's a very fine line. Now, I would perhaps challenge the view of us needing to stay humble. Because, as you say, Ruth, absolutely, it is a fine line. But I wonder how many colleagues of ours, male colleagues, often think about being humble, or do they even think about being humble? Does it even cross their mind? I wonder what's your view. Men don't, exactly. Men don't. It is a fine line, because but I would argue it is also the way we have been still raised up, if you like. Women, stay humble, they will notice you, and it's not, women don't behave like that. And once we have someone who does behave like that, we ourselves even tend to judge this woman as someone who shouldn't be behaving like that. She's not behaving like a woman, and she's really aggressive and really rude. This is, that's a really, really fine balance. But at this point in my life, I'm very much into, why should we be that humble? Like, we don't want to be humble. And if someone, and we don't want to be aggressive, but we want to be assertive. And then back to the point, why should everybody like us? As long as we are respectful, as long as we are fair, and as long as we are professional, then there is no point in staying in particularly humble. I think here there is an important thing as well as for us as line managers, because claiming achievements for some line managers means claiming everybody's achievements, the whole team's achievement. It's important to give the credit where it's due, especially for a woman who will not be able or will not want to claim it herself. But being humble I think, Ruth, please do think about it and share with me next time this being humble concept, because I think at this point in my life, I don't want to be especially humble. I don't know. I will stop here because it will be maybe too much. Any more comments, ladies, or questions? I really, really enjoyed the discussion, and I know we are over going time-wise already.
So maybe I have one point to make. When I first saw Shana's making a comment about this overclaim, I understood it a bit differently. So like maybe I just referred to my situation. So I also have this problem, not claiming, and I'm just now learning to do it. So to kind of brag a little bit about myself. And sometimes I don't want to cross the line of being kind of silly, because I still don't know. I still don't feel 100% comfortable doing this. So I wouldn't like to make it sound silly or funny or I don't know, just not proportionate to what I did exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's sometimes I think during another webinar someone mentioned that sometimes these LinkedIn profiles they seem to be over the top, right? And presenting more than the actual positions were meant to be. And I don't want to be this funny person that is bragging about something that was not proportionate to what they actually did. So this is my problem, let's say, about overclaiming.
Yeah, thank you, Asha, for raising this. I understand you 100%, because it happened to me many times. Like even before I started to publish on LinkedIn, I was the reason why I started so not long ago was I was always thinking like, who cares, first of all, and then why is it even important, and what do I have to say? Someone else would be able to say much more about this. So this is all this, self-sabotaging and ruminating in our own heads, going like, yeah, who are you to talk? Who are you to write about it? Who are you to say this? And then at the end of the day, it was actually like your achievement. What achievement? It was simple and it was easy and it was small. But if we judge ourselves like that, we will be self-censoring ourselves, and we will never be able to move forward with that. I would leave that judgment to others, and I'm sure every one of us is able to differentiate between bragging or lying on our achievements. Not bragging, lying, or saying it's more than it actually was, and stating the fact. And Asha, this is a really, really important point. And yeah, this is one of those things that women are really, really reluctant to do all the time, and because of the fear of being judged.
Yeah, it's not only this. I think it's like because we are used to be like, let's say, stay in line and not to, let's say, brag about ourselves, then it just feels unnatural for me to do this. And I need to learn. And then whenever I do it, like I force myself to do it, then it feels unnatural for me. And I'm just thinking, is it still okay? Is it not? Am I crossing the line? Is it bending the reality, or this is actually the reality? It just needs learning. And
it does
I don't know.
a lot, and it's common to all of us. It's common to all of us, and Ruth is saying it's minimizing as well. Absolutely, and you are right, Asha. It's all about unlearning what we have learned to be, because of the societal expectations and because of the ways we were or are being raised still. Like, it's important how we raise our daughters going forward, because for them not to have to unlearn, but to be confident. It's all about confidence as well. It does require learning, and I would say it's lifetime learning, and I'm still learning myself. Thank you, ladies. Is there any more comments? I thank you so much for this very, very insightful discussion. I thank you for not being humble and coming up with your points and your valuable input. I do invite you to join me next week, and I also do invite you to share your feedback if there is anything you would like me to cover or anything that you would like me to do differently. In the meantime, do remember, that career planning is an ongoing process, and it's important to become and remain proactive and intentional about your career management. Thank you so much, everybody, and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ladies.